Hey everyone, welcome to Grain Therapy, the woodworking podcast where we discuss our passions, methods, and personal growth as we build our woodworking businesses. This week, Matt shows me how to make marketing a fun challenge to solve. And then after swapping gluing tips, I share some of my sticky emotions I had during my table build. I need a break, and we both need to laugh about some of our built-in mishaps. Unrelated, how do you like epoxy? This podcast can be found anywhere you like to listen. If you find value in it, please leave us a comment or review. In addition to following this podcast, follow us at Bossman's Boutique and at Whiskey Woodshop to see our projects start to finish. So sit back and watch, listen while you work, or put us on in the background. Either way, we hope you enjoy.
What are you drinking? Is that Furious?
Yeah, it's basic today. Surly Furious.
That's a dinner right there.
Mm-hmm.
I drank too many of those. They don't really do it for me anymore.
You don't like it? Like it's just too. Is it too bitter, or is it just?
No, they're just. I don't know. I'd rather go for like a full hazy or something. They're just kind of. I don't know. I like Surly, but the Furious IPA in general, I just kind of had too many of them, and now they're just kind of like a piece of bread.
Yeah. Bread in the can. Yep.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, they're good, but one time I made fried fish, onion rings, and fries, like from potatoes and onions, like with like cut breading and stuff. I was bored during COVID, okay, and I was wrapping up college, so I made it all with the breading had Furious IPA in it, and I had it with a Furious IPA. So like I had the whole meal and the Furious IPA, and I think that was the last time I actually.
That was it.
Because it was just too much. I mean, it tasted good, but it was just too much.
Yeah, that's too good. Yeah, was it I had an old supervisor at a past job who I think it was Furious. He'd cook brats with it, and so he'd boil it all off, so it's just like the goopy syrup, and then cook his brats in that.
Yep.
Like they were so good, and so we'd
yeah.
have,
I mean,
yeah.
I just during COVID, I realized that you can fry your own stuff. Like I had not gotten there yet.
It, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I can just make fried chicken at home. I just have to bread it with some flour and egg and all, the stuff. So
yeah,
I was just frying everything all of a sudden, and I went through like a fry phase, but not anymore. So today I'm just having some Old Forester.
Old Forester.
Single barrel. Yep. It's good stuff.
Nice.
Having a small pour. I got to drive somewhere to pick up a Festool track saw after this. But I'm not buying it.
Ooh. You're not buying it. You're buying
it. I'm demoing it from a friend. In reality, I need it for 4 cuts. So
don't get addicted. It probably only takes 4 cuts to say, I need one of these.
I'll do 3 with the Festool, and then I'll do 1 with my skill saw. And then that'll actually definitely make me addicted, because then I'll realize how bad I am with just doing a skill saw with a track.
Do you have a track for your skill saw?
Well, I have like a straight track, like one of those.
You clamp it on.
Yeah, one of those BOA or whatever the brand is.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So like you can get 8 feet out of it, and then I just clamp it down and then go real slow, and I can run it. It just takes me longer to set up, and it's not quite as precise.
Yeah.
So I do it for when I need it, but for this barn door, I want it to be dead on. So I'm gonna borrow the Festool, because he has it just sitting there. So
perfect. Yeah.
Give it a shot.
That's a good tool. I think
get addicted.
I used one time to square up a piece of plywood, and just like being able to like lay it down. The clamp is so nice. To like adjust it so it's square is so much easier than that Bora thing. That Bora thing, you move one side and the other side moved enough. Going back and forth. But anyway, yeah, just one cut. I was like, I need
square.
Yeah, I need the budget for this. And
yeah, because like if I'm trying to just take off a little bit, and I've got the BOA straight edge basically, and then I've got my skill saw. I have just 2 inches of ride or whatever for the plate of the skill saw to ride on, so it's really easy to just slightly angle that cut, and then you're fighting it, and it's just more problems than solutions. So I'm excited to try it out. I want one, obviously, but dust collectors first, as we talked about last week.
Yeah, the sexy purchase.
You gotta get
that one first.
But that's all right. It'll come.
Yeah.
But this is the first time sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, first time I've had a project on deck officially.
Okay.
So this barn door will wrap up in about a week. So I'll get that delivered, and then I'll get to start right on a small built-in that we kind of talked about last week with cubbies and stuff for a friend's entry closet. So that one should be good. And they have another 3 projects that they're thinking about too, still in the built-in type area. Not so I don't necessarily want them if I've got other work I can do, standalone furniture, but it'd be really nice to just plug away at those because I can probably turn them over fairly quick for decent margin and then buy that dust collector or buy, whatever I need.
Yeah.
So
Cool. So yeah, these next 2 projects are funding your next toy, which is a good way of looking at it.
just got to keep loading the next one. Yeah.
So you said you never had something on deck. Has that introduced anything new for you, feeling wise, or just like stress wise, or is it like super nice?
Yeah, super nice.
Good.
Super nice. I just have a plan, and then that buys me another 2 weeks to find the next thing. They're both small projects. They'll both go quick, but it's just trying to get that flow. And I'm trying to push my current cabinet design pretty hard coming into the end of the year. I'm trying to load up a bunch of work and just work through the winter on those. Would be ideal to help my numbers for closing out at the end of the year. Yeah. If I can get a little bit more, then I could buy some tools and then tie the bow on the year for the, just for the accounting side of the thing.
Yeah.
So I would really like to get multiple orders on that cabinet. And I'm trying to do some deal where, if 4 people buy it, everybody gets $400 off, because then I can try to do more of a process type thing. So I've got that going for it's the 1st of November right now. So that'll go through Black Friday. So I'm going to try to hype up this cabinet and talk about the design features and get people into it.
Okay.
And, even if I got two to build, then I could try to do it as a batch and make jigs and still do that and have them available.
Yeah.
But so I have it up to 10 orders. So if 10 people order them magically, I don't think that'll happen, but it'll be $1,000 off for everybody. But then I still, knowing the numbers, it's still going to be worth it if 10 people buy them.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So
cool. Yeah. What's the ballpark price on that right now?
Yeah, the starting price right now is $4,500.
$4,500. Okay.
So the lowest will get down
to a deal if somebody gets $1,000 off of that. Yeah.
So and then right now, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how are you planning on marketing that? Are you like just Instagram pushing it out? Do you have like a couple things that you're gonna hit once a week, or
just Instagram? And I'm gonna do some more specific ads for it on Instagram. So
okay, have you done paid ads before?
A little bit, not more than like $20.
Okay.
I've got the one boosted right now that I posted today for it to kind of introduce it. We'll see how it goes. It might not go that well, but I'm trying to use that to help me get more in my area. So because I'd ideally like these people to be in Minnesota, so that the cost is included if you live in Minnesota for delivery, and then outside of Minnesota, I'll still drive it there, but we got to talk pricing.
Yeah.
Right. So that was why I was updating my website before this, because at the moment I have it, all deliveries in the US are covered in that price, which I was okay with. But if I'm doing, let's say 4 of these and I got to go all over, it's going to get harder. So it would be really cool to do like a tour, like magically in a dream world, right? Somebody buys me in Wisconsin, Ohio, Alabama, like that. This won't happen, right? But like, it'd be so cool to like rent a trailer, like just get a U-Haul for 3 days or whatever, and just do a little. That'd be an awesome weekend. Yeah.
I hope it happens now.
Deal. That's fine with me.
I'm gonna be thinking about that. See if I can help cause that to be the case.
That'd be the best road trip in the world. Like me with 5 cabinets in the back, just tooling around the U.S. or something.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, right now it's technically covered under that price, but I think I'm going to do it so it's only Minnesota. And then if it's under 1,000 miles, it's X. Or like if it's under 500, I'll bracket it somehow. And it'll be, nobody's buying it directly through the website. That's all inquiry stuff. With that cabinet, like there's no place you can actually enter your credit card to buy this cabinet. It's an inquiry. So It's a get in line and you enter your email and then what material you want is the only thing it is right now. And then I would reach out, work through the customized options. So do you want 2 wine racks, 1 wine rack, a glass panel, a mirror, the different features. I don't want them all. I don't want you to be able to buy it through the website, especially if I'm doing this discount thing. So
have to return, or maybe they want it customized different after they've had a conversation, and
exactly. So that way they're still customizable and I can give people what they want, but the main carcass is all the same for everybody's. And then it's just little things. So I can still make jigs and work on the processes, but then maybe okay, this one needs 2 wine racks. This one needs 1 big shelf instead of the small shelf, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to push it fairly hard. I don't want to be annoying, but that's the thing. What everybody says is just to sell, right? So
I mean, and it's just kind of who knows who's seeing all your same posts over and over again, and wouldn't worry too much. How far would you drive to deliver one? Would you go all the way to California?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the way I looked at it too, when I included it in the pricing, so let's say it's $4,500. I think materials is like, if they go for the humidor option, which I don't think I'm going to offer on this sale, that's going to be like one of the humidor drawer is going to be expensive, and I haven't done that yet, so it's going to be harder. And then if they did the 2 wine racks, it would take me a little longer. Anyway, material wise, I think the worst case configuration materials are like $950, give or take.
Okay.
So I got $3,500 to work with, especially if I was making it in bulk. But even if I wasn't, I took about 40 hours, I think 45 hours to do the first one.
Okay.
Maybe 50. I honestly lost track a little bit, but
sure.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think with my head screwed on straight, and I've been getting better since this spring when I made the first one, I could get it done within a reasonable time. That now it turns into a fun weekend, and I get to drop it off. So I'd probably go out there with my wife, stay at a hotel for a couple of nights, go to a national park or something, and try to have fun with it. Versus driving there and back to California would not be the move. So
that's such a great plan. Like, I've thought, there's been so many times where I've had the conversation with my wife about like, oh, what if I make this big custom project, but it's from a customer, far away. And I've never once been like, I'm just going to drive that out there. And I'm like, why haven't I even considered that?
It
just
depends.
having an aha moment. Like,
it's
just so obvious.
It'd be cool. I mean, you need the time, obviously, and you need them to be flexible enough that you can plan the delivery date with them, so it works for both of us.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't want to drive to Ohio and back. I guess you could sightsee through, stop at some lake, go to Lake Michigan or something, whatever.
Got a Football Hall of Fame. I got Cedar Point.
Sure.
Well, that's probably closed. That's all I know.
This time of year, but it depends on where it is. But I think it'd be cool to go. But I think I'm going to start doing the mileage thing. So if it's between 0 and 500 miles and it's outside of Minnesota, it's going to be plus this.
Sure.
And then because after 500 miles, I definitely need a hotel.
Right.
At around 500 miles, I could justify possibly just waking up early, getting there, and then driving back.
Just like a real business, like a consumer business, just hand them a receipt, say, I need reimbursement.
Yeah, exactly. Please reimburse my miles. Thank you. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just need a bunch of people from California to buy them now, and then road trip. So
sweet.
Yeah.
So that's this week. What else did you do this week? You said you were working on your benches last week.
Yeah. I was working on my benches. I got the last tops on the rolling benches. So the 4 modular benches are topped at least. So I have my work surface back. So I'm back to kind of square where I started. The undersides still do not have drawers.
Okay.
But I'm waiting for, I've got a built-in job coming up, and which I already mentioned. So that's going to be using some ply. So I know I'm going to have some offcuts.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to do my drawers until I have like some random 5-inch strips from that plywood. I'm not going to go buy plywood before I start that. So
Sure.
that'll be nice. Hopefully I can do 2 birds kind of thing, waste a little less.
How'd they work out level wise? I know there was a
Decent.
One
of them is a little wonky just because the 2x4 was not cooperating underneath that the casters are screwed into. So it's within a little bit, but the latches are working pretty well. So I've got 8 latches so far. I had to order more. So I've got one on the top and bottom on the front and back. So each seam has 4 latches to it. So they roll around and I can disconnect them, and the latches have like a 300-pound hold, and I can tighten them up with the eye bolt adjustment. So seem to be pretty good.
Pretty darn flat. Yeah.
Cool. And as long as it works as an outfeed, I'm not going to reference it as a dead flat. I'm going to reference my jointer table as a dead flat, or like I don't need that necessarily. And I guarantee my old table appeared to be dead flat, but I bet you there was a little bit of, depending on how the table was sitting, it might have had some flex to it too. So as long as I can outfeed and have nothing catch, nothing slide, just the seams are level, it'll be good.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty satisfied. We'll find out. I got to use it more,
Right. But it's done. That's exciting too. And awesome.
Yeah. So now I got to take some plastic that I've got in the shop. I'm going to cut those into strips and screw on the bottom front lip of the workbench, because I'm a finger glue spreader. So one of those still. I don't have like a brush or a roller. Those annoy me.
Scrape it off.
So then I always, underside of the table, get the glue off my fingers. So my old table had all these bumps of glue.
Yeah.
And I don't put that on the new one. So I'm going to put some plastic underneath. I've got some plastic in the shop that I used on a form. So then I'll be able to clean it off better. So, or at least I hope.
Finger glue spreader. Do you enjoy that, or you just had?
I don't mind
it. I had to upgrade when I was doing like 20 cutting boards a week, and
for sure,
I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, none of my glue ups are like thick. Like the thickest glue up is like 1.5 inches.
Okay,
so
that's something I would have never asked about. That's like a
how do you spread glue?
Hilarious piece of information that I know now. And I don't know why it's 20 inches. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I had a little brush at one point sitting in some water in the shop.
Convenient. Yeah.
But like the water froze one time. So that was annoying. It's just like, and I don't have a great glue caddy spot or anything. I just have the squeeze bottle with the the small. I don't even know what brand that is, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just run it on the line, on the face, and then start spreading. And I just work to one edge, and then I just work to the other edge. I just pull it one way and then the other way, and then it covers every little piece of
works great. Works super good. Yeah.
And then I don't have like spillover. I find like with rollers or like sometimes brushes, you get it like goes over the edge and starts rolling down. That doesn't happen with my finger.
Yeah, so. It's a big trade-off actually. Yeah, I use it's like a 12-ounce bottle, and it's got the roller on it, so you squeeze it and it rolls it for you.
There you go.
Gosh, that thing sucks to clean. Like it's just a nightmare. And so
when the glue dries, you got to scrape it all off and everything.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday who they basically decided that the best, and I've seen this on YouTube too, is just like a paint roller is the best way for glue. You just dip it and then roll it. And
like a cloth one?
Like a cloth one, like the cheap ones. And if you forget to clean that out or dip it in water, you just throw it out and you got a clean one ready to go. And
I feel like you'd have to get the nap free, like the lint sensitive ones. Because what happens if I don't know.
I don't think it would matter too much if you got a few
lint in the glue joint. Who cares?
Because they do. I've also seen the tip, and I've done it once or twice. The salt, yeah. So like.
Do you like that?
So when I first started doing Chevron, like way back in the beginning of Chevron, I did do the salt tip, and that helped a lot. I have no idea if it's like strength wise, if it diminishes any of it. I have never had somebody come back and say it was bad. But now I just have a different process of how I do it, so I don't really need the salt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I let, because Chevron's kind of an end grain glue up, like sort of depends on the angle. I layer it on really thick, let it soak in for like 20 minutes, and then I flip them over and clamp them up. So it's like, so then they don't slide anymore. So you get it right to where you want it. Clamp is good and works out great.
Yeah, I haven't had to try the salt. I haven't had like an application where I actually needed it. I usually just, if things are sliding around, I just get mad and then end up using a screw or something stupid that I shouldn't be.
Hold it there with your hands for 2 minutes.
Just,
and then
just sit there for 2 days while the glue dries. Yeah. Yeah, so for the bench, I don't know what else I need to add. I need to make my drawers, obviously, but I talked about my different work surfaces that I'm going to do underneath.
I don't think so. I don't recall.
Okay, so the top drawer, I've got 4 units. The one unit is going to have a router table
Okay.
on the backside, so it's just going to have a standard drawer on the top.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 are going to have the whole length of the 48 inches of the unit. The top drawer is going to be a whole long drawer.
Okay.
That's going to be it's going to be a 2x4 track, basically. So I'm going to have this track made where you can pull this out and then 2 legs drop down.
Okay.
And it's an extension of the work surface lower.
Yeah.
It'll be a different surface. So on one of them, I'm going to do like a carpet or a fabric of some kind that's like clean at all times and it's soft. On another one, I'm going to do a cutting mat. So like a upholstery cutting mat that you can cut leather or whatever junk on that. Because I can see myself eventually doing like chairs and trying to do like some basic upholstery, like very basic. Okay. So then the cloth one would be to keep, if I'm trying to upholster like a small chair seat or something, I can have it on a soft surface versus the dusty, scratched up, glued up surfaces. And then the last one, I think I'll do a sheet metal. Like I'll just bend some sheet metal over a piece of ply to have for when I'm doing some grinding or I just would rather have something, or maybe I need to set something up with magnets or, something like that.
Cool.
Just to have some versatile work surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
So those will be the 3 different surfaces, and they'll be like probably 44 by 18-ish.
Yeah.
So fairly decent, and if they can pull out nicely, that'll be cool.
That's a super cool idea. Yeah.
Hoping it works out.
Yeah, well, keep me updated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else you do with metal just would be good for a lot of things.
There's like random stuff where I'm like realizing I'm ruining my bench by like pounding stuff in where it's just I need something slightly harder or I do some grinding sometimes just on random stuff. So sparks flying everywhere. It'd be nice if they're going on the metal table first versus the pile of sawdust on the floor.
Right.
So
don't tell Osa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't insure me. It's fine.
Yeah, you're good.
They don't come inspecting, but yeah, I don't know. If you have ideas other than those 3, I'm super open to them because those probably won't happen for a little while longer. Those secondary surfaces, but
I'll let you know if I think of anything. I find that in my shop, I don't have a good surface to put my brand on in between.
That was another thing.
Yeah,
I can put it on the metal one.
Right.
Yeah. So right now I take one of those screw-in clamps, like the Phillips little screw clamps for pipes or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just set the brand, balance it on there, and it suspends it off all the wood surfaces. And I'm like, don't move. And then I leave it to air out over there. So
I had this like ceramic, I don't know, bathroom tile that I was using for a while, and even that got too hot and it cracked in half, and then
really,
it got a little burn on my workbench. Luckily, like I caught it in time, thank goodness. But like I was warming it up, getting ready to do a stack of 200 coasters, and when I came back, it was shattered and almost resting on the wood.
So do you have an electric one then, probably?
Yeah, it just plugs in. Yeah.
I have a propane, like a heat one, or it's just a piece of bronze, and then you got to heat it up. So
Yeah, with a torch or something.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just torch. But I don't
Yeah.
do many of them, honestly.
And and I save it up. Like I've got a bunch of product every time I whip that thing out. Otherwise, yeah, it just I like to batch things that way, especially when it's something that is hot and
Well, and that smokes up the shop too. Like that's kind of it can be annoying to do it over and over, and then you get the haze, and you're like, oh, this is great for me. But
yep.
it's cool though. It's branding, both
Super
marketing
cool.
and literally.
Yeah, one of my favorite purchases for sure.
Yeah.
I think this week, so all I did was I delivered the table.
That was it. Nothing big, just like your biggest project to date, and that's it. That's all we got to say.
That was it. It was cool. So we got it over there, and because it's in his basement, it's down this stairwell and around the corner, and so that was why the whole thing I had it threaded inserts, and that worked great. Got it down there really nice. Took several hours to set up, and then I hurt my ankle. So I told you a little bit about that. But 31, some days you just wake up and you can't walk on your foot. So dealing with that.
31 is not that old.
No, it's not. It's not. My ankle should be a little more resilient, but we'll see what happens. So it was just a cool experience. And now this week, I should talk more about it. He was really thrilled. Like it was just really cool. I took a couple like candid videos and photos of him just like kind of standing there, hand on hips, just enjoying the view. And after I got it done, being assembled, it took 2 days. But then I was finally able to relax once it was completely up, and he let me hang out for a couple hours, just soaking it in, enjoying it,
be with it,
taking some pictures. Yeah, and so I didn't finish the accessories, so I'll be back to deliver those and that's when I'm going to schedule some professional pictures. I did not do as good of a job as I hoped I could with just my iPhone. So
that happens.
Yep, it happens. Now I know what I need to do.
So you got people lined up then?
I've got nobody lined up.
Really?
For the photos. I'm going to reach out to those folks you recommended. And then I am going to also contact one of my personal friends who took the last pictures of that and see what her comfortability is with taking some video too. And so that'll kind of be my decision.
Yeah.
And then, he's been super nice about it too. Like just he's going to invite my wife and me over at some point to have a game night so we can
there you go
experience using it. So that's really good. An awesome week. And then I've been forcing myself to take that break I've been talking about with very little success. I still got that itch to just be productive. I am really relaxed now that thing's done, but it's not fully done because I've still got the accessories, so there's still a little bit of that stress. But I've been just trying to take it easy, do reflection time, and it's just been really hard, way harder than I thought. So I'm trying to come up with what I want to do is share, my perspective of being like my perfectionism, got imposter syndrome. I mean, we've touched on that a little bit here and maybe haven't called it that, but just feeling unworthy sometimes of the path that I'm going down. And so like I experienced those things to like a really debilitating degree, during points where like I just wouldn't get out of bed and like just be mean to myself in my head, like self-critics, like, oh, like he's going to hate this part. This part's going to be, hard to make, and I'm not even going to be able to make it successfully, and I'm going to lose money, and just the constant rolling of thoughts. So I really want to like get into a way of sharing that with, my followers on Instagram, and just hopefully, really it's only the hope that if anybody else is struggling the way I am, they've heard somebody talk about it and can relate and not feel alone. Like that's the minimum want from this, or like expectation. So that it's not really, I'm not putting too much pressure on myself, but it's just still hard to, I worry that I'm going to come off as, hey, this thing was really hard for me, and like feel bad for me, and like I don't want any of that. It's more, how do I create that message in a way where they see the real emotion of what happened through it as I walk through how things went, but then still present, hey, there's something helpful here. And so this week I've just been thinking a lot about that, but also trying to take a break, long breaks in between, and just a little bit of the beating myself up during it. So
Right.
My break week hasn't felt like a break week yet, but it's been good, like learning lots. And
so is the reflection helping you, or is it bringing you back to where you might be dwelling on those thoughts? Has it been good, or
it's been good and bad, like that's a great question too, because like I do find myself sometimes like trying to learn something from the difficult experience, and like if you go into that with maybe the wrong mindset, or like you just aren't ready, it does end up being
more of the same.
Just spiraling and like redo it, re-traumatizing yourself. That's probably a poor word for this situation, but it has been helpful, and like because because the table's at his house and I'm not thinking about it nonstop of like, oh, I've got to build this, I've got to do that, I got to make sure this is good enough. Just like I've been able to be more generous to myself this last week. And so when I do go into that space of trying to reflect on it, it has been more fruitful. So like already I've learned, when I'm feeling that on a project and it's the struggle to get through, like I know that eventually I'll be done and I'll have the time to go through that stuff. So like this week has already, if not a lot of other things, it's given me permission for when I'm in the next project, just like don't ignore that the bad feelings are happening, but like say, hey, we've got time. We don't have to do this right now and figure it out now. We can get through the project, and I'm going to have plenty of time to figure it out at the end of the project, which like isn't a thought that I would have come up with until having gone through this experience with the table. And that can be embarrassing in itself, just being like, oh yeah, dumb, like, hey, there's the obvious, like you don't have to do anything today. But when you're in that mode of just panic and I'm not good enough, it's hard to calm yourself. At least that's my experience. Yeah. So it's been good.
Do you think the table was good enough?
Yes, I do.
Hell yes. That's what I wanted you to say. There we go.
I laughed.
There we go. We made it.
I laughed because it's such a real question. Like, it took a few days of convincing myself of that to get there and believe it and say, yeah, the table is good enough. Like that's a little bit of a battle that like, I hate to admit that it was a battle of convincing myself, but it's real. And so, it was good enough. It was hella good.
Is it perfect?
No.
So then you got more work to do, and that's your next project.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
cool. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I saw you had posted on Monday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Is that going to be are you trying to do a pattern with it at all, or do you know how quickly you'll try to feed this out to the Instagram or?
I don't know. I go back and forth because it initially I was like, ooh, I'm gonna come up with a 4 or 5 part series of like, here's just the one aspect, and then like as I go and try to like script some of the content, it just explodes and becomes this like way bigger scope of a thing. And it's like, okay, now I've got to pare that down. And so for me to try to like, all right, I'm going to set these constraints when it comes to what I have to think about and reflect on for my own growth. It's the two are like opposed. It seems like the two ideas. So I think the way I need to think about it is, all right, by next week, I'm going to have just 4 messages to say, and then I'll release them. I want to try to release them 1 per day for a little bit and just try to get the algorithm to at least point people in the same direction. And I've never done a series, so that's like an experiment in itself to see how social media likes that too. But
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So then it'll be, I mean, you're obviously making it for other people, but it's your experience, right? So then it'll be kind of like your plot line through it, right? So like this is where you started, and then this is maybe where you're at now, or how like your
I mean,
post reflection on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it that I haven't even considered yet. So thank you for meeting me in this place to talk about it a little bit. But mostly, I just want to like so far all I've thought about is like here are the things that are fighting against me, and some of them are self-created and some of them aren't. But like perfectionism, like I just want to talk about like this is what that is, and this is how it shows up for me. Not saying that it's going to show up for anybody else exactly the same, but I've come up with some ways to when it's happening, and like I'm often not aware of when it's happening, and it's just like I feel at the end of the day I'm just like panicked and I don't know why I'm so stressed out. And so now I can kind of look back, and I'm becoming more self-aware when those things happen. But I can look back and say, oh, that was perfectionism this day, and that's what was getting in my way. So if I can notice it in the time or even at the end of the day, like here's a thing to help prepare for the next day.
Yeah.
So you're not just stuck there day after day. So it's going to be little things like that. Like this is what I did throughout this table because it was happening all the time. And by the end of it, I was finally getting the hang of, all right, here's a thing to do. So it's just mostly just like, here's the helpful tidbit of if you struggle with perfectionism, imposter syndrome, depression, any of the other things, like here's a thing that you can think about for a day and then try to apply some compassion to yourself, prepare yourself for the next day. Yeah. So it's more just really basic content like that, coupled with like, this was the reality of my situation. You guys would never have known this unless I shared this, because there's a lot of people who look at the work that I make, and I imagine, so I'm mostly imagining it, but I've gotten some feedback where like, oh yeah, you look like everything's together, and like, yeah, you're killing it. Like you're doing your business, and like everything must be so good. And it's just like, well, it's not. Yeah. I'm struggling.
I mean, Instagram has just a sunshine vibe about it. Like everything is going well on Instagram. Like then you think Twitter, where everybody's complaining about stuff or something. Like I don't have Twitter anymore, but that's what I remember, but from back when I had one. But like it's just different moods on different social platforms. You know, kind of how we've talked that you get more criticism on Reddit versus Instagram is like, way to go, you built it, you know, and you're sharing cool ideas and people are posting cute pictures of themselves or whatever it is, you know. So like Instagram definitely has the we're all doing fine vibe where
butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah. So that's cool. What you were talking about with like tools of how you've, you know, dealt with that inner dialogue and stuff kind of made me think. So I listen to books in the shop too. And there's this book on Audible that I'm only like probably a third of the way through. But it's called Chatter. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's been pretty solid for the first section that I've heard so far. And you know, it's basically just talking about your inner dialogue, and like there's a lot of scientific studies about your inner dialogue within it. So it's good on my wavelength for like engineering and stuff. Where it's just like, this was a study that was done on these type of people, and this is what they found, and that kind of thing. But one of the things that I've been trying to do, where they talked about, now I'm not going to try to quote the studies because I really don't remember, but there was a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not cross checking all the studies and making sure everything's accurate in there, but like a lot of the stuff kind of checks out in my brain that would seem to work for me. But the one thing that they were doing was talking when you're facing yourself with a problem or an issue, and you're just trying to talk yourself through it, or even a feeling, is to just talk to yourself in the third person, basically,
Okay.
or like second person, and say, like, Matt, like, you know, you messed this up, but then you just need to do this, or you, like, whatever the situation is. It can just be a feeling you have, or a situation you find yourself in. But with all the studies, they found that people could be more logical and separate themselves from the emotional side of the issue and just like address the problem, or come to closer reality. So I was while I was listening to that, I was messing something up and I was getting really heated. And then I was like, I literally out loud, because it, you know, with the book, it was like, just say something to yourself in the third person or whatever. And then you will literally think differently, even if it's just slightly, if you just slightly reframe that perspective. And it happened with people who were in trouble, people who were hurting other people, like by viewing it, talking to yourself as you were talking to a friend, you're going to be way more, compassionate to them, and you're gonna, you know, all that kind of stuff that you were bringing up there, just giving yourself compassion. So I was messing something up, and I was like, Matt, like, you're out here at 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday or whatever it was, like, you're doing your best, like, we're gonna fix that, it's fine, like. And then I was like, oh yeah, and then I just fixed it, and I was like totally chill, and it was, I don't know, but anyway, I don't know how the rest of the book's gonna turn out, but I would recommend Chatter, because it's all about inner dialogue and stuff.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I'll take as many resources as I can. I like Audible a lot too.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to many audiobooks. I've been kind of strong arming myself to read the self-help books, and that's just, it's too much sometimes, because
it's just hard with time, you know.
Yeah.
I would if I could, but time is just not what I have a lot of right now.
Yeah, so if you've got recommendations, I'll take them.
Yeah, there are a lot of good books out there, and they just make me excited for working on stuff. You know, all these business books, marketing books, puts me on my next sales scheme. You know, it's like this sale that I apparently have for the next 24 days, whatever. We'll see what happens, but
dude, it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
we'll get it to work.
So when you were talking about the install, I want to bring it back to that, because that is not something we need to glance over.
Okay.
That is a huge deal. For the resource that I had recommended for the videos, they did do some pictures for me too. If your friend isn't able to, you could ask them for that as well. And then just, you know, for them, it's just about being clear on what you want. Like, I specifically just asked for 2 reels, basically, like 2 less than 30-second videos, and they did pretty good, I think. Good enough for what I paid, right? So I'm assuming you have like a pretty flexible schedule with that guy, so like you can get all the materials you want from him.
Yeah. So he was cool with another day or two of just, you know, being around and taking videos, taking photos, whatever. So very flexible. If that helps with these guys that you're recommending.
Yeah, I mean, see however it goes. You go with whatever your gut says. But I was just curious on how. I mean, that's a very interesting client relationship, because, you know, it took longer than you had planned, and I know you've said that, right? And it sounds like he was pretty flexible and had a lot of grace for just situations that come up. And then, you know, he's being cool with the install and everything. And so I'm curious if you're going to get like a review from him and post it, or if you're going to get even a video of him talking would be pretty cool, but that might be a lot to ask depending on his personality.
Yeah. I think those are all things I could ask for. Like, I could definitely ask him to do that. I have asked him to do a review in like, he actually was cool with the next one. So I always ask for a review when I do a custom thing. And then one of the newer things I've been asking for, that he's the first one who's taken me up on it, where I asked, like, is there, can you like write a letter or like have something written where you just kind of describe the whole experience and like how it felt for you, and like when a thing came up where it was unexpected, like for my own self, like I want to understand, do you think I handled that well? like, did you get what you needed and I get what I needed? And so he's gonna like write a letter of like the whole experience, and then include a lot of like emotional stuff too. So I did ask him because that's what's the most meaningful to me, and like, so it's really just it's something my wife has helped me with to get more encouragement from the customers that I'm working with, because the emotional information matters a lot to me, but most people, that's just not the natural way of speaking.
Yeah. It looks
so,
nice.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so he took me up on it, and I'm really excited to see and hear about that. And like, I already know it's going to be great because he's like, like I said, standing on hands on the hips, just kind of
the feeling that you have looking at it, he has, and he just bought it. He didn't even build it.
Right. Yep.
That's cool.
He's a proud owner.
That's really cool. Yeah, I bet he's going to be having people over all the time. And I mean, he's going to have you guys over. And I mean, you could, I don't know if you want to be just a gaming table guy, right? That's kind of what you're thinking about. But I was like, oh, you could video you guys actually playing on it. And you could, there's so many things you can do.
Yeah. We'll get some videos of playing. It's so cool because the day I got done, he's like, "Ooh, I'm calling my parents and I'm having them come over and like see the table." Like, he's just so excited. He's already had 2 gaming sessions on it, and I delivered it 5 days ago. So 6 days ago. So yeah, he's that's good.
I mean, that's exactly what you want, is somebody that you want them to use it, right? We've kind of talked about the function, so
just the best case scenario fell into my lap, and it worked out. So I got to keep holding on to things like that to encourage myself to not get into those pitfalls that I find myself into.
Any hiccups with like fit up at all, or was it all pretty seamless?
I thought so. I had it assembled before finish, and so I left the threaded inserts in there because some of them I didn't like super glue or like adhere every single one because you never know what's going to happen. So I brought a tap with, because I finished right over the top. I never had to use it. Everything just went right together. The only thing was I had the legs wrapped around the corner, and then I had trim on the apron between the legs. And so it actually stuck out. I'm trying to think. So let's see if I can do it this way.
Yep.
The trim had to go in front of the leg.
Yeah.
Even though the legs had to come on after. So I had that at like a 45-degree angle. That was the hardest part, because the finish was on it and I didn't want that to scratch.
Yep.
So it had to like slide up from the bottom of the table to like get into position.
It's a nice light table that's easy to maneuver. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a couple scratches that just got on there, and I brought a can of spray shellac and just kind of touched it up, and
it's fine.
You can't notice unless you know it's there.
Yep.
And he was so gracious about all those like little things where he did kind of notice. He's like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, the table's great and everything's great about it. That little thing, nobody's ever going to see it.
Yeah.
So he's super cool about everything.
There you go. Was he standing there watching you install the whole thing?
He was excited enough where he was in and out, kind of.
Well, the in and out is kind of okay, but it's hard when it's like just standing there watching. So
he asked every time if it was fine. So he was never there when it was bothering me.
Yeah. Have I told you about an install that went bad at a brewery?
I don't think maybe we touched it way back in the beginning, but
well, I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But basically, stuff didn't fit, and I needed to fit between 2 walls. It was like 160 some inches or something. It was a big long area, and either I measured wrong when I was first there to quote, or I typoed or something. But I was off by 2 widths of my board, right? So 1.5 inches, so because there were 3/4 each. So we had this whole base unit and then this top surround. It was for a merchandise display at a brewery. So the top of the surround that has all the racks for clothing were supposed to go on the outside of the lower unit, and the lower unit's got drawers for clothes, and then a area for a water dispenser and some board game storage and everything. So the surround was supposed to drop on the outside and screw in directly from the unit to help give that surround support.
Yeah.
And then I screwed on the top of the surround where you can't see in the stud up top. So then on the bottom, it would be held in by the unit, which is screwed into the wall. And then the top would be screwed directly into the wall. Anyway, something was off by 1.5 inches. So game day decision. Also, I had signatures on the drawing. I get those every time. So these were the dimensions I built it to. And I can prove to you, like I'm there at install. The person who let me in to the brewery was 15 minutes late, and I had to get it done. I think it was a Sunday morning. I had to get it done before they opened at noon. And so it's like 8:15, and I'm just trying to crank through this thing. And I thought we had enough time, but now we got to make adjustments. And so we ended up having to cut the bottom off the two ends of the surround. So like I had my brand on it just on the bottom corner there. So that got cut off, which is kind of a bummer, but whatever. And then we had to mount, instead of on the sides of the unit, it just went direct onto the unit.
Okay.
And then I hit a pocket hole, and then I trimmed over the pocket hole to help secure it into the base. And then I also was able to screw into the wall and then hide that with I'm lucky I landed on a stud there. And then my closed rails also were able to go into studs too. So it's secure. It's plenty secure, at least.
And they were watching you the whole time?
Yeah, that was what I thought of this. They were watching me the whole time. And basically I was laying everything out, and then I'm sweating real hard because I'm realizing it's not gonna fit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this my fault? So I go back to the truck, I get the drawing that has a signature on it, and I'm like, I know I built it to that. So, I might have measured it wrong when I was bidding it, but they confirmed. We changed some things too. Like, so they were confirming dimensions and stuff. So maybe somewhere in there, something got lost in translation. But I asked her, should we do it like this? I'm going to cut here, and then it'll just sit right on top, and then it'll look fine. And she signed a change. Like I wrote a change on the same paper, and then I had her sign it just to have like sense of mind here. Like, but that was painful, just having to cut that and then adjust on the fly, but it ended up fitting. But that was torture.
I can imagine. Yeah. I haven't had anything quite that bad, but the one I did a built-in project that I'll call it a built-in, kind of not really. It was a mantle over a fireplace, but it was around a corner, and it met against 4 walls.
My goodness.
And like I shouldn't have taken it. I was really excited because it was right at the beginning. But yeah, so I had everything, the right dimensions, what I measured. They measured for me, with a compass to tell me like what the angles were between the 4 walls. And it's just ended up not being close enough. And it was early enough where I didn't really realize how to do what's the word for when you
like scribe it?
Scribe it, yeah. So I knew what the concept was, but I didn't know how to actually do that like on site. And I chose to just kind of make it work. And then I did an extra thick line of caulk, and he was standing there watching me do the caulk and was not super happy about it, but like, just like, this is where we're at. Like, you're getting a fantastic deal on this. Like, yeah, I remember just feeling like
you feel bad about the whole thing just because of that little detail.
Tail between my legs as I left that place.
Yeah. And just I forgot the main detail. By the time we wrapped up and we got it all cleaned up, there was 11 minutes until they opened. So at the end, it was just like, go, so. And we were cutting trim live on site. Like I had like pre-finished trim, and I knew we'd cut on site and everything to trim out the flooring and everything. And learned that from a different built-in project they had installed, where that floor on this house in Bloomington, it had like a 1-inch drop on 8 feet, 8
Oh,
foot
man.
bench. So, and I was not prepared for that level of shimming. Like I had a tiny little, like I was not even thinking that far.
Yeah.
You set it down on the ground and it's like clear away from the wall on the opposite side. So I got to block this thing up, and then I had to go home, cut new pieces, and then I had to come back a different time and paint the pieces that I put on. But it ended up looking nice. It was just like, now I will never not prep trim ahead of time and just come with extra trim. So
Right.
I'm reminding myself to do that for this next little cubby built in. So,
Well, it sounds like for the brewery one, you're pretty darn good under pressure. Like you got all the paperwork handled and you finished before it opened. Like that's amazing. Flawless execution.
Well, it was funny too, because there was a couple that was walking their dog right by us. It was fairly cold out, and I'm out there cutting trim and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, are they closed today?" And they opened in like 30 minutes, and I have like a whole construction site outside, like all the wood and sawdust and my miter and everything, and I'm like, "No, they're open today. You're good." They're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'll have it done." And I was just like speed cutting all this trim, and it turned out okay, but. Luckily, I had a friend on install with me.
Okay.
So I pay him for some hours, and then I help him on installs. He helps me. So it's kind of, you just need extra hands. Sometimes things are too awkward and heavy. So,
yeah.
Did you have help, or did the owner help you?
The owner helped me like I needed help bringing the big plywood. There's 2 plywood sheets down the basement. And then, he helped me bring stuff in. And then other than that, it was just, there's a couple things I had to go grab him and ask opinion on. Like, so there are LEDs on the inside. It didn't quite look the way that I envisioned it or the way I had pitched it once. I had never actually installed them yet. It was more of this was always going to be an on-site thing. Yeah. And he was cool with it. There's nothing.
What didn't seem quite right?
So I had a piece of 1.5, so it's like 6/4 walnut is what those inner walls are. So about 1.25 inches by the time you plane everything flat. And then I cut out those designs with a router template that I made on my CNC. And then I had to hollow out the back side of that. So that, and my plan from the get-go was to insert diffused plastic so that really, like, I don't know, I think that's the right term, diffused.
It's like slightly opaque.
Yeah, so it's that like misty texture.
Sure.
And the hope of that was with the LEDs behind it, it would kind of like even out the look, and you wouldn't just see the dots of the LEDs behind it.
Yep.
But you could still really see the LEDs because I didn't get thick enough plastic material, I think, is what I would do differently, or have a deeper pocket there so the lights could be further away. And they were just up too close, so it wasn't the effect that I wanted, but he was pretty happy with it. So that's one thing I would definitely do different if I'm going to do LEDs inside of something.
Little thicker diffused light. Okay.
Or have the lights farther away from the surface that they're lighting up. Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah. Can you dim the LEDs at all?
They it was hard to find flexible in terms of function LEDs out there. So I found the one that just had a remote with all the different colors, and you could cut it to the length that you needed without having to worry about the rest of them working. So it was pretty basic. So no dimming capabilities.
Is that direct plugged or battery?
Battery.
Okay, but you can access the battery, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's just like underneath the table, and then when I deliver the accessories, I'm gonna mount it nicely. Right now, it's just kind of hanging under there.
If it works though.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, lighting's hard. Like I just modeled up a shuffleboard just for fun to try to get my coworker to buy something for me, and like I had I could do LEDs underneath the actual play surface to kind of shine on the.
That'd be cool.
Just on the catch mat or whatever you want to call that. But so I was gonna try to model that, and no, I'm just not. So in the quote, LEDs wherever we want them, not pictured.
Yeah,
figure it out, but it'd be cool. Like other features. So
I think what I've done, like at old jobs that had lights in them, just color that surface and say this is where they'll be mounted.
Blue. Yep.
Yeah, blue.
Yep. Blue here. Blue goes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I hope he wants to do that. That would be a really fun project.
Yeah.
It'd be a little intimidating too. I would think.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely need to hire out the flattening of the main board.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd bring it to some shop that can sand that thing flat. It'd be
Yeah.
like a 12-foot long, 16-inch wide walnut chunk. So I'm not flattening that. Walnut. I modeled it out of walnut and white oak. And so
Okay.
I don't know. I love working with walnut. It looks so nice.
What do you think you do to make the shapes
The numbers?
to contrast the walnut?
I'd probably I need them CNC cut either way, or get some templates CNC cut and then route them, obviously. But I'd either do an epoxy fill with some white or something. But I hate epoxy, and hate is kind of a strong word, but if I can avoid it, I will. So I think I would do white oak inlay.
Oh, okay. That'd be awesome.
So I would need those numbers also cut on the CNC, and then just do like a chamfer and then pound them as flat as I can, and then surface to flat. So yeah,
that's a CNC whole rabbit hole technique that I've done one time and been too intimidated to go back. But that's
did it not work as well as you wanted?
It works fine. That's a different day. We'll talk about that.
Sure.
I'll have pictures. I'll have show and tell.
Okay.
But yeah, that's cool. I also do not like epoxy. Have you worked with it much?
So I made a bar for our wedding / basement. So like I built it for our wedding. Our wedding was up at my in-laws' cabin in northern Minnesota. We had it in their pole barn. So I built a bar for the wedding with the idea of it going in our basement. So we had some live edge slabs, and it's a 2-part bar. So like there's a lower section with like a sink, and then a top section where you'd actually sit at. So like counter height, bar height. And so there are 2 slabs. Back then I was very much not knowing what I was doing. So I'm flattening with a router sled. Just not the best situation. And the red oak slabs, not the best situation. I like the bar because I made it, but I also hate it a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did a glaze coat on that, and my buddy does a lot of epoxy, River Dog Fabrications, Jake, who you've almost met. So he does a lot of epoxy stuff, and he likes it for some reason. So he came and helped me with that, but it was slightly a nightmare because the one live edge piece I fully flattened with the router sled, and it on the bottom side, the bit slipped, and it chunked out another 1/2 inch down. Like it just all of a sudden slipped out the router. Luckily it was on the underside because I was already at 1.5 inches, and I didn't want to go lower than that for the thickness of this slab. So I said, screw it. It's on the bottom. I don't care. And then on the second slab, the bigger slab, we got through the bottom, and it was just not cutting nice. I probably needed a new bit. Also, I was getting real sick of doing that. I only had like 1 inch router bit, and it's this, long. It was hours. And my sled I didn't build super strong. It was my first real attempt at ever making something like that. So since it was like a 2.5 foot slab, the rail that the router slid on was pretty long. So then as you push, you're leaning forward, and then you're slightly putting a tiny bit of weight down. So you almost need to just push it with your finger. So that it would slightly bow. So then you get a slight, so that basically the bottom of the main slab was almost dead flat, but enough to where I could tell I'm getting worse at this as I go, not better. So I just abandoned ship, and it was fairly flat on the top. It's not perfect, but like it's a bar. It
gets the job done.
It's not a dining table. I don't know. It looks flat-ish, and I don't really care anymore. So not a router sled guy, not an epoxy guy.
Yeah, epoxy. I mean, I've seen it like in the terms of inlay, like I'm gonna cut out some cool shapes and fill it in with epoxy. I'm about that, but like I don't know.
Different idea than like a river table for the millionth time.
River table, I can't. I'm tired of those. Tired of seeing them.
A little boring.
Yeah.
I do epoxy obviously with like trying to think if I have anything here. No, I don't. But knot holes. Like I'll do black epoxy in knot holes and stuff. But that on walnut. I haven't figured out what to do on like oak or anything. But yeah.
Yeah. How is that easy enough? Is that like fast enough?
I just use like a 2-part. They're in little tubes.
Yep.
Got them at Rockler, and then I just use a black dye, and I do it like small little batches, stir it up with a piece of junk scrap wood, and then just plop it in the hole, and then it dries and sand flat. So
okay.
And I don't buff it shiny or anything because it's just kind of a matte black. I want it to not look like anything, not draw more attention.
Yeah, you're just sanding it to whatever you're sanding the whole project, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I've been using just like CA glue for knots, and I just like the speed of it because you've got the accelerator.
Yeah.
And just do another layer, like so I can be done with it as I'm sanding it and noticing the holes. But
I should switch to that. Do you sand flat or do you dye it at all?
I have clear and I have black. And so each project I kind of make the call on which one I use. When you use the clear, you have to wait a little bit before you apply the accelerator. Otherwise, it causes there to be a lot of bubbles in there. So you got to like let it settle and start to cure before you do the accelerator. So most of the times I'm just using black. So I can just do it quickly.
Do you ever have a through hole to where you need to tape the backside?
Yeah.
And the CA glue still works fine?
Yeah, you got to use a lot more of it then.
Yeah.
And so there's been times where like, yeah, if it's a through hole, I'll tape the bottom. I mean, lay the tape side down on the table, just do a couple layers and use the accelerator, and then I'll plug it with like sawdust or like I'll make sure that bottom layer is thick enough where when I press on it from the other side, there's no flexion. And then I'll fill it, like I'll make a little mixture of wood glue and sawdust and shove it in there, and then do a top layer of CA glue again.
Okay, so there's like a little void of sawdust in the middle?
Yeah, so like it depends on the function of that product. So if it's like a kitchen item, I'm not doing it that way. I'll do CA glue all the way through. But if it's like a table that has an apron with a through hole, like I'll do the sawdust version.
So can you see the sawdust on the clear, or do you only do that with black?
Only do that with black.
Okay, I was going to say that might look a little funny.
If it's a total through hole, and I don't have black, or black would look bad, then I'll just use wood plugs, and so I'll use a more like a Fastener bit, cut it out, and then I've got these. I don't know what the bits are called, but they're plug cutters.
Yeah, those square shape.
No, these are these. Yeah, I should show these to you sometime. But they're like a legit nice drill bit type with like they're super solid. I can't even describe it. It's just like it's hollow through the middle and it's really robust around the outside, but it's like an auger bit on the outside. So there's no square. Those square ones don't work very well.
Okay, good to know. So it's kind of like a hole saw but it looks like a socket almost.
Yeah, it's like a Fastener bit meets hole saw. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that'd be good. Most holes I'm just doing the epoxy like that black 2-part. They're in like little toothpaste tubes. I got away from overnight though, so that's a good point with the CA glue. I didn't start using CA glue often until recently. So
yeah, it's handy. It's just so quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I should start doing that. And then what do you do about like tiny little cracks and random stuff you don't notice until you're too far into the project?
Again, it depends on the function. So if it's a cutting board, I'm going to do CA glue and try to do that accordingly. If it's, which again isn't great for your knife, but like it also doesn't work to fill with sawdust and glue. But
Right.
that sawdust and glue is what I'm going to do in other situations.
I don't do any kitchen products, so I only ever doing sawdust and glue. I just started doing the dark glue, which I think worked nice. I don't really see much difference, honestly.
Sure.
I'm still like, I sand the area and then use that sawdust to plug.
Yeah.
So I try to do the same species.
Yeah. So you're like, the theory is use a shade or two darker than the wood that you're filling, because then it could blend in with the grain instead of just being an obvious, like, slightly off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really notice that to work super well. So I usually just sand the piece that I'm working on without my dust collection on, and then rub glue into it, and then just go over it one more time. That usually works well. But again, only if I'm putting an oil finish on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all the little stuff, like little finicky stuff. I got to figure all that out still. Plugging holes. But there's a knot on the barn door that I think I want to leave, but I'm not positive yet. So that might be a CA glue option here.
So is that a thing you'll bring up to the customer, or just make a call?
I'll just make a call.
Yeah.
Like, I'll make it as nice as I can, so that way the conversation doesn't really need to happen. Because I don't know. It depends on the vibe I get. I mean, she selected white oak, so she obviously knows something about something. Versus, but
yeah, that's true.
Sometimes if you give too many options, you open yourself up to more issues than solutions, right? So I'm gonna make it look as nice as I can. That's where we're at.
Cool. Yeah. That's a good point. That's something that I'm not super conscious of. I think I'm constantly overwhelming my customers with options.
It's really depending on how much they know about stuff, and I think people just at the end of the day want their product, and they won't notice a lot of stuff like we do. So if I can just make it look clean, and so it doesn't draw attention to it, like I'm not gonna fill this knot with black epoxy, obviously, for the white oak. I just game day decision. Once I get it sanded, we'll figure it out, and then hope they don't complain. It's the best you can do sometimes. So
yeah, you trust your judgment a lot, though, so that's good.
Yeah, try to.
Yeah.
Have you seen all the knot hole? You have to have seen like the block filling, like COC Design does it a lot. I think that's how you say it on Instagram.
Is it the whatever liquid that you pour in and then you put that steel block on top or whatever? Is that what you're talking about?
Like, I'm talking like the chunky inlays that cover knots in big live edge pieces and stuff.
So you're talking like a bow tie, but it's not necessarily shaped like a bow tie.
Yeah, well, people do just like a bunch of squares in like different, and they're obviously different grain. But so like when you back up, it's more subtle. But then if you look really closely, it's like, oh wow, like it's a million little squares. Have you ever thought of doing something like that? It's kind of a different look.
I've done that.
Oh really?
So I actually really like that method. It depends. That's one that is usually I leave that up to the customer, and a lot of times they don't know what they want. But like it's one of those things where I don't always trust my own judgment because it can get really wild if you don't match it perfect. And like some people will be like, "Oh, what's this?" and be like, "Oh, I wish I would have known about that." I like that technique just because it's really easy. I usually cut out a shape, whatever shape I want. I do like bow ties, but cut out whatever shape you want. Actually, I'm going to throw a caveat on there. I like bow ties because of the mechanical advantage that it provides.
Yeah.
So for like a crack, if you've got the angles the different way, it can't expand past that mechanical advantage. So I usually don't do squares, but I do something that has that mechanical advantage. I just double stick tape it, use a marking knife, go around.
Yep.
I use my router, get as close to the line, and then chisel the rest out. Never had you got to be a little patient, a little careful to make sure you're making a straight chisel line. But after that's done, like it's a really foolproof process to just drop the block in there, cut it off, sand it flush.
I've done a couple bow ties, and I find it harder to cut the actual bow tie than to make the hole for the bow tie.
Yeah.
I don't have a saw, so.
Oh yeah, that'd be way tougher.
Sketchy cuts on a miter saw. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I won't ever again. But that was a while ago, so
I won't ever.
Never again.
You got all fingers, hand check.
Yeah, but so I'm not even talking just for holding like separating joints though. Have you seen like where they just fully eliminate knots by doing a bunch of squares?
Yeah.
It's kind of just a wild, different idea versus instead of filling it with epoxy, you just now it's gone. But some people go with like an obviously different grain, and then some people try to get as close as they can to the real look.
Yeah, I always think it's better to cover stuff up with more wood.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a woodworker, that's what we're good with, right? So
yeah.
Why are we playing with epoxy? So,
nope.
A lot of plastic stuff out there now in people's houses, just chilling. That's basically what epoxy is. It's just plastic.
That won't degrade in our lifetime, but
nope.
It will someday.
Someday. Yeah, it's just funny stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anything big coming up the next week? More chilling?
Just more focusing on the social media and the chilling and finding a good balance between that.
Good.
And then after that, I'll land on the next piece of furniture around the house, and I think it's gonna be a bookshelf, whether it's just a wall-mounted floating shelf or a full standing one. I don't know yet, but
big difference.
That's what's next.
Yep. Well, that's a rabbit hole to go down. That's fun.
So
next time we talk, I'll hopefully be done with that barn door and have a date delivered or scheduled, and then starting on the next one. So
the built-in.
The built-in.
I can't wait to hear
built-in
about that one. The last, yeah.
Yeah, we'll
see. Asterisk.
The maybe last. Depends on how worth it these are.
Yeah. Yeah, you might love it.
I'll be the built-in guy. Never again. Well, have a good week, Brian. Nice chatting.
Yeah, same to you. See you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We'd be having these conversations with or without you because we get a lot of value out of this and we learn and grow together, but we're glad that you're here as well.
Yes, please let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review or a rating, but also comment or share with your friends in the woodworking or small business community. I'm Matt from Whiskey Woodshop.
And I'm Brian of Boss Man's Boutique.
Thanks for
listening.